Pleb slop, pleb slop spouter.
Dicks, pussies, and assholes.
Technical idiot.
Pleb slop, retard,
Pussies.
retardation, or
Pleb slop people like us.
we're reckless, arrogant, stupid dicks.
Hey guys, this is Rudy Dazzleworth. Make sure to check out my new series, Plebs Slop Pulitzer Prizes, which is exclusively available for Bugle Weekly Fountain subscribers. I'll be narrating the best articles written by Plebs Slop journalists like Hodlanot and Justin Beckler. Toodaloo, now enjoy the episode.
Folks, welcome back to the Bugle Weekly, and it's been a very nice Easter, I have to say. I had a very nice Easter with the family. We went to church this morning. We went and saw Pastor Jeff deliver just the most incredible sermon. A brilliant mixture of pleb slop and actual insightful thoughts, but he delivered the sermon on how the plebs killed Jesus. So if you've not checked that sermon out, it is recorded and published on our RSS feed. You can catch a preview of it, but if you're a subscriber, you can listen to the full thing. If for whatever reason you don't want to subscribe to the Bugle Weekly, you can just purchase the episode if you want. But yeah, I don't know, it was great. We did the annual Easter egg hunt with the kid, and per usual, I put a bunch of cigarettes in the Easter eggs. And, something strange happened this year. Like, usually parents get a little bit upset with me by putting cigarettes in Easter eggs, but this year, they actually, appreciated it. There's been this shift in America that has happened where cigarettes are back, people think vaping's gay, and, I don't know, that made my Easter better, seeing that, but how was your Easter, Rod?
I think, like a lot of people, it has been a very active, very volatile, a lot of headlines, a lot of scary headlines. The first turning, World War III, Iran, prediction markets, Venezuela, ICE agents, Minnesota. I mean, there's several, Epstein files, all these things. It's just a relief to make it to the spring season. And, the spring season is it represents, rebirth, and you made it through the winter. The world continues on. The sun still comes up. It still gets warm. Everything comes back to life. Things get better. It's a dependable thing. You get through the winter, you make it to spring, and you get to white goy summer after that. And then, there was times in the past, 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, where I didn't think we were going to see white goy summer, because I didn't know there was going to be any of us around to experience that and to enjoy it. There was rumors that Bitcoin summer is going to come back, and it was just I don't know. I don't know if any of this is ever coming. I don't think anything's coming back. But here we are. He's risen. Bitcoin is pumping this evening. It has already won. Spring is here. Easter is here. And I think it's just a bigger relief. I think we appreciated Easter more this year than I definitely appreciated Easter more this year than I have appreciated Easters in any recent years in the past. And I think other people have too. And it sounds like you have too.
Yeah, I always enjoy it. There's a lot of things that people do which are, strange and don't make sense. And there's a consistent thing that many people do, which is complain about daylight savings, and yet we continue to just, it wouldn't be that hard, realistically, to eliminate daylight savings from our lives, by making enough fuss about it. And, probably a $50,000 donation to Satoshi Action Fund, with all of Dennis's connections in government would be enough to end it. Convincing some state legislatures to move on that front, because everybody hates it. But one of the most retarded things that happens in like the American Western calendar is having New Year's be January 1st. That is incredibly stupid to have the New Year start in the middle of winter. And there are other people throughout history that have celebrated New Year's April 1st. And I think it makes so much more sense because that's spring. That's when things are starting to, revitalize. And, people have this attitude where they try to create all of these, resolutions and whatever in the dead of winter, when your body is at the least level of energy. Like your body is literally.
This is pleb behavior.
Yeah, it's pleb behavior. And to celebrate, but I think that's why, there's like this refreshing energy around Easter every year, and this year in particular, because it's really the start of the new year for real. It's spring, things are budding. It's time to make your New Year's resolutions. Yes. Your energy is only going to increase as the sun comes out more and gets hotter. It's going to be more pleasant to smoke cigarettes outside with your friends. You're going to want to be out there doing things more. So happy New Year for real.
Yes. Happy New Year. And like this is pleb behavior. What the word you said, the worst time to be recreating, setting New Year's resolutions is the dead of winter. And that is what plebs always, they just don't know how to properly direct their energy. It's like you need to focus on the new year in the springtime. You need to sync up. And this is why I think that we need a user-activated soft fork when it comes to daylight savings time. There's no nobody wants daylight savings time. It's only the government makes us do it. The government, who is still not prosecuting people in the Epstein files, the government who is, because, it is people in the government who are in the Epstein files, they're the ones who tell us when to spring forward and fall back, or that we have to spring forward or fall. They're the ones who tell us that we have to change our clocks in the wintertime and become more depressed, because they know that's when we're trying to set our New Year's resolutions. We're trying to become better. We're trying to afford our taxes. It is for the new year, so they make us set the time back, so we're depressed and we have less energy. They're suppressing our ability to set New Year's resolutions and to succeed on them. I think that citizens should take that back. We should just say, no, we're not falling back. And what is the government going to do about it? I think that's a real option. I think that's a more successful strategy than BIP 110, is what I'm saying. We need a user-activated soft fork for daylight savings time.
Yeah, I mean, not just daylight savings, but the calendar entirely. And this is a project I've wanted to do for a while, is create a calendar with alternative holidays. And, you could start the new year on April 1st and, really set a precedent, because like a lot of these things, like, time and holidays and, just perceptions around, a lot of what is considered important culturally. It's what they would call in sociology a social construct. And, one of the lessons to learn from the whole transgender movement is how easy it is to convince a bunch of plebs a retarded idea. Because you take something that's pretty, fairly binary, which is, biological sex, and you convince them that it's not binary. And you see this all throughout the world, or all throughout our country, where they convince the plebs a bunch of retarded things that they just kind of go along with. Tons of things, just endless amounts of things. They like convincing them that Family Guy is a good TV show, convincing them that vaping is a good idea, convincing them that slop music on the radio is worth listening to, convincing them. I don't know. There's just endless amounts of bad things that they've convinced all sorts of plebs to believe in, strongly. And I think what that just shows you is that it's possible to teach the plebs good ideas. Is it hard? Yes. But it's possible. If you can convince a pleb a bad idea, you might be able to convince a pleb a good idea.
But the people are asking the question. That's true. But I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is figuring out, is it worth your time to teach the plebs a good idea? You know what I mean? It's like, if your passion is mentoring plebs or whatever and teaching them things, if you want to lead the plebs, fine. But like, is it your duty to lead? Is it your duty to show leadership to the plebs? Is it your duty to be a role model to plebs? Just because you are an influencer or a podcaster or, a paper Bitcoin CEO, like wherever, like, is it your obligation to be a good role model? Is it David Bailey's obligation to be a good role model to plebs? Do people have a responsibility to the plebs? And, Jesus said to love prostitutes, plebs, crooks, murderers, the homeless. It is in many of people's religions and traditions, and people go to church and they have, they have charities. It is to help people like plebs. So it's, A, is it your obligation? And B, is it worth it?
It's a hard question, and I guess it depends on the context of the situation, but,
Jesus loved the plebs and the plebs killed him. The plebs killed Jesus, but he still loved the plebs. And so it doesn't say in the Bible directly that, Jesus loved the plebs, but it does in every other possible way.
Well, I was sitting in the sermon this morning and I was just, I came to the realization a long time ago that if you fix the slop, you fix the plebs. And, if there was powerful competing pleb slop pro-Jesus at the time, maybe the plebs wouldn't have killed Jesus. And so there are these circumstances in history where you kind of, there is a serious question of if he could have prevented.
Well, no, I think it is my perspective that the subtext or like the meaning, to take away from the story of the crucifixion of Jesus is that the plebs will always kill Jesus. The plebs did kill Jesus and they will always kill Jesus because, if you think of Jesus as this metaphor, and a lot of plebs, a lot of people compare Bitcoin as like the second coming, or as like Satoshi as like this new digital, what does Aaron Redwing call it? The age of Aquarius. Bitcoin is like the Jesus of the age of Aquarius. And what are the plebs trying to do? They're trying to kill Bitcoin. They're trying to kill Jesus again. The plebs should know better, but Jesus said, what was it, to Peter or Paul or which one of his disciples? He said, you will betray me 3 times tonight. And Judas Iscariot, and one of you, or you will deny me, he said. And he says, one of you will betray me tonight. And what happens? Just like Marty, Judas betrayed Bitcoin, betrayed Jesus for silver. And it happens. It is inevitable. The plebs will kill Jesus. So do you want to teach and lead and be a good example to, the people who would kill Jesus? Do you want to be allies with the people who killed Jesus? Is my question. And America's asking itself, do we want to be allies with the people who killed Jesus? Do we care about the plebs?
I think it's a good question, but I think it's, you know, the plebs go whichever direction the slop goes. And they only killed Jesus because the Jews spewed the slop telling them to do it, right? And I don't know.
Jesus was
definitely
denied a Jewish lawyer in his trial.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess that. I mean, I wouldn't ever consider the plebs an ally. They're just like a pawn on the chessboard. You know what I mean? You're playing 4D chess
They're like
with
the
the world.
Kurds. Yeah, they're like the Kurds in Afghanistan. They, you know, if you, yeah, sure. If you need them to crash out in a specific direction, you know, they're your ally, I guess, whatever. But you don't go to war and you think, all right, well, we got the plebs, right? You know what I mean? It's like they're not, you know, exactly. But it doesn't mean that plebs are not useful to some people sometimes. It doesn't mean that feds don't occasionally need the plebs for some shit that their bosses don't necessarily know about. They're not necessarily doing legally. Like, but sometimes the feds use the plebs, just like the Kurds.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I guess it's, you know, from a tactical standpoint, you kind of, if you're going after controlling the plebs with the competing faction of slop, you kind of just end up in the same scenario where it's just plebs fighting plebs, and it's not really creating any sort of progress for humanity. It's just replicating the same thing that we've seen for all of human history, where it's just a giant pleb mosh pit, essentially. I think it's a good point. It's just, you know, when you have the power of good pleb slop, it's hard to resist using it. You know what I mean?
It's like a pleb slop is the new charisma. It is the new riz. It captures people's attention. Pleb slop is a fun narrative. It's an easy narrative. It's an easy, comforting narrative to follow. And people like that. People need that. Some might say. There's a lot of people say that society, at least certain parts of it, needs slop. Slop will hold it together. It could be the glue that holds us together. It can be the glue that holds group chats together, podcasts, algorithm, you know, like Bitcoin Twitter or Black Twitter or NBA Twitter. Slop binds it together. Memes bind us together. Our culture binds us together. And slop is culture, because culture is slop now. You can say or things about that. So if you control the culture, that means you control the slop and vice versa. So, you know, having good pleb slop is useful. It's important. It's valuable, and it's influential.
Yeah, when you say good, I think you mean potent, but it's yeah, I guess engaging with the pleb slop is kind of like taking one of the rings of power from Sauron, where Sauron had one ring that ruled it all. Like you enter into the game of trying to influence and control the plebs. Turns out you probably end up getting controlled in the end. Where in, you know, reality and not Lord of the Rings fantasy world, Sauron is really like Baal or Moloch controlling the rings of power of pleb slop.
Right. It is. It's also an exercise for a lot of people of trying to convince the plebs that they can't slop. That the pleb slop has its clergy, you know, and just like in the old days, like the plebs were not allowed to read. It was only the clergy who was allowed to read, especially the scriptures. And a lot of the people that, some people try to say, like, I'm the slopper. I lead this. I direct this movement, and the plebs cannot slop. They're not allowed to slop. The slop duty, the privilege lies with the slop cult leader. Pleb slop cult leader.
I don't really care to talk about that, like the whole non-debate that's been happening, but this has been a funny piece of breaking news that just came across my feed. It seems like Bitcoin Motorist is doing some pleb slop journalism, and he is under the impression that Predator sold his account and it got taken over.
That's an interesting theory. I've seen this come up multiple times in the past week or so. People are accusing Predator of either being compromised, but it centers around certain people, certain influencers, not just Predator, but Predator in this instance, changing their stance on spam. Apparently at some point, Predator, like others, realized spam was bad, and all of a sudden they are apparently not anti-spam enough. And it's either that he's compromised or that he sold his account. Which one do you think is more likely? I think who would want Predator's account, first of all? Corey?
Well, I was under the impression, based on my own journalism, that the Predator changed stances because somebody offered him $500 in Nintendo store credits. He still controls his account. He just has a few more video games, and that's what he sold out for.
I think that is, I've also heard that one, but my hot take is that if anybody very few people have followed Predator closer than I have, past 3 or 4 years. He has blocked me for years, and I guarantee you I still follow you. I still follow him more than most of his followers. Now, there's some other Predator heads out there. But anyways, Predator has been banned and has been muting terms. I mean, Predator has probably muted more terms like breaking or paper Bitcoin or Maxi Madness or just in, et cetera, et cetera. He posts a new screenshot of a term he's muted every day. He's one of the most grumpy people that you've ever met or that you ever encountered on the timeline. And I think Predator just realized that there's no amount of filters that will solve you for being grumpy. You have to. Predator has chosen the Easter season, spring this year, to reinvent himself, to set New Year's resolutions. He's following your advice, I think, whether he knows it or not. So Predator is taking it upon himself to solve his grumpiness problem and to stop blaming it on spam and to stop thinking filters are going to solve, make it happy.
Well, good on him.
Yeah, I hope the best for him. I'm really rooting for Predator. If anybody, everybody deserves second chances. Everybody crashes out. And it's not about crashing out. It's how you respond.
So if he reinvents himself and stops being such a whiny bitch, are you going to stop following him? Or are you going to follow him more?
If Predator turns it around, I'm gonna reach out through group chat. They do some group chat diplomacy to have somebody reach out to Predator, have him unblock me, and maybe have a truce. I mean, it happened with Giacomo. Some people, I think it was Rob and Dr. Adam Back and Jameis Lop, they went to bat for me a few months ago. Told Giacomo to unblock me. He did. Now we, we're on, decent terms. We have diplomatic relations now.
Interesting. Yeah.
I would,
people might think that we're vindictive, but and hold grudges. I don't feel that way. I don't really hold grudges. It's just when we see things, it's kind of our job to report on it and make comment of it. And I think people get kind of grumpy about it, but
no, not vindictive at all. If you recall, last summer, we went out of our way. I mean, way out of our way. We went to Nostr. We went to all these different platforms to invite Pledator to join us at Paper Bitcoin Summer. And he did not, he refused. He had no interest, but we want at every step of the way, Paper Bitcoin Summer, we made sure to let Pledator know he was invited. So no, this is not vindictiveness. If you asked me where I follow Pledator, I would love to make friends with Pledator. I'd love to follow him. You won't let me. Pledator will not let me be his friend. And that's all I want. So yeah, that's the answer to your question.
We've been obviously having the most fun for a long time now. I don't think there's anybody out.
Is there anybody in this industry, in this sphere, in this environment that we're in that you don't want to be friends with, that you don't want to have on the podcast? Especially in terms of the people that blocked you or me, or who dislike us, who are outspoken, like Joe Nakamoto, Cratter. I would love to hang out with them. I would love to have them on the podcast. I would be their friend. Maybe not. Maybe some less than others. I don't know if I'd get along with Cratter very well, but I would talk to him. I'd go on his podcast if he invited me. I'd love to.
Yeah. I mean, the way I think of it, we've been having the most fun for a while. I think we've got the best party in town, hands down. I don't think there's really anybody that competes with it. And we want more people to join us. We want more people to have fun. But we're not going to let you into the party if you're going to be a grump and you're going to bring everybody down and you're going to kill the vibe. You know what I mean? But as far as having people in the party,
you're welcome. You're welcome to talk about what nodes client you run if you come hang out at one of our parties. But the difference is we're not going to ask you at the door. If you run Knots or Core or Bitcoin or whatever, you can still come.
No, there's a lot of people I'm not letting in the party. Absolutely.
But you're not going to ask. My point is, we don't KYC your nodes.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't care what implementation.
You're a piece of shit otherwise, yeah.
Like, for example, I probably wouldn't let Motorist into the party or JC Crown, but I would let I'd let that Spoon guy in. I think he's retarded, but he seems like he has a decent vibe. I wouldn't let Tomer in.
No, I wouldn't let, Cratter into the party, but not because he runs Knots. That's my point. Would you let Shinobi into your party? I mean, Shinobi I like Shinobi, but do you think some parties, you don't want to kill the vibe. You don't want to scare the O's, as some people say.
Yeah, I'm kind of 50-50 on that. He would be on the short leash. He brings down
group chat or spaces. He brings down spaces.
He definitely brings down spaces. I've told him before his spaces etiquette is absolutely horrendous. I couldn't believe the behavior he had on that space I did with the Aaron that I let him up on. I don't know. It's
he was a buzzkill in the Maxi Madness spaces last year too.
I might let Shinobi into the party just to eject him, just to make a scene, because I think that'd be pretty entertaining. Throw him out by his collar.
I would love to be in spaces again with Shinobi and Terrence at the same time.
Yeah, I wouldn't be an active one. I could listen and be a fly on the wall for that.
Yeah.
You think Terrence is having a good time?
I hope so, because he wasn't last time we saw him, heard him in spaces. He hasn't been on the timeline in a while. He was not having fun. So I know whatever he's doing now, he's having a lot of fun. Same with, new creations. I don't think he was having a lot of fun. He took some time off. But he came back today because it was, Easter. And he said, wow, I don't know if I'm going to be on Twitter too much anymore. There's way too much pleb slop. And I don't know how I didn't notice it before. And he tagged me. So, he took some time away. New creations did, and he came back and he could see the pleb slop. He could see the forest for the trees. I don't care. It's on the same journey.
It'd be nice if the pleb sloppers developed a more potent form of slop, because there's been this consistent, complaint that people have had, which is that new individuals aren't finding any of their slop compelling. And it's not bringing new individuals in. Like, it's not an effective way to sell your trinkets and doodads.
Yes, in my opinion, the problem is actually, for many people, quite simple. It's not a winning strategy. The winning strategy is to make pleb slop that inspires people, to make pleb slop that encourages the best, attributes in people. Pleb slop that entertains people, teaches people, influences people. It's not a winning strategy to make pleb slop just to make Shinobi crash out. It's not a compelling winning strategy to make pleb slop just to, accuse everybody of being on Epstein Island, or to make people who run different node clients and you crash out. And it's as simple as that. You have to make you want to make people crash up with your pleb slop, not crash out.
Well, this kind of goes back to, should you even care about the plebs? I guess we're talking to the people that have chosen to care, not necessarily trying to convince other people to get into the arena of pleb slop. Just a little bit different.
Right. I mean, I asked the question, should you care about wanting to teach plebs an important idea? But also, should you care about wanting to make the plebs crash out? Should you care about the plebs at all? Should you pay attention to plebs? Maybe that's the question. Should we still be paying attention to the plebs? Should we be glazing the plebs? Should we be paying attention to them at all?
Well, we're doing a pretty poor job of glazing the plebs, that's for sure. That's their constant complaint with us. They don't feel glazed enough by us. It seems like it really upsets Tomer.
The plebs feel entitled to glaze. That is true. But, that we have to make some difficult decisions. There's too much going on to be spending this much time worrying about the plebs and whether they're happy, whether they're properly glazed, whether they need more glaze, less glaze, or anything, honestly. And whether you're a core dev, a podcaster, a paper Bitcoiner, a CEO, a miner, whatever it is, do you have to care about the plebs? Do you have to stop and listen to the plebs? And at this point, no. People just don't have enough time and don't have enough money.
Yeah. Well, one of the themes that I found kind of interesting, I felt much less of a desire to monitor the situation with this war is currently happening. And I think this is a general trend that many previous situation monitoring enthusiasts have had way less desire to monitor it. And I've got a theory on that. Before I go into that theory, I'm curious your thoughts.
I agree. And with a caveat that, or, maybe a question of it deserve a caveat is, I had really not been interested, but I noticed that a lot of people had not been interested. And even in conversations we had and stuff we see from Mars, he making fun of people who were still monitoring the situation. It was like nobody cared anymore. There was a lot more going on in a lot of different, realms, Maxi Madness, music, movies, the list goes on, that were more interesting than the situation in monitoring it. But then this weekend, a lot of people found themselves relapsing into monitoring the situation after the Iranians shot down a couple of U.S. fighter jets. There was allegedly a pilot down behind enemy lines, and this very, too good to be true sounding story about special forces and this rescue operation that was perfect. And then there was like a few issues with the rescue operation, and the details started to come out, and it was just, the story was very difficult to comprehend. It sounded good. It got a lot of attention, and it got a lot of scrutiny, whatever. And now it seems like the Iran slop accounts they're telling a different story. But they're not very reliable. But we're starting to kind of suspect that maybe the New York Times, the White House, the Pentagon, the Washington Post, the BBC, like maybe they're not anymore, well, I mean, we knew this, but many more people are starting to realize that these institutions in the West are not any more reliable or dependable on what's really going on in Iran than, the OSINT slop accounts or the Iran slop accounts or the Plebs slop accounts for that matter. And now people are starting to realize, I didn't want to monitor the situation, but now I feel like I have to. I feel like there's a lot of consequences. There's a lot at stakes right now, and I need to pay attention. But now I don't know who to pay attention to. I don't know how to figure out what's going on. That's, I guess, my caveat is the situation is like becoming maybe not voluntary or whatever, optional to monitor.
Well, my theory on why people aren't monitoring it as much is because it's, I think it's feeling real. Like there's actually some consequences being felt. And, I've lived in the American Empire for a long time. And, one thing I notice about the citizens of the American Empire is, they get excited about war as long as it feels like sports ball. And like the nice thing about like watching a sports ball game is there's no real like consequences for it. You know what I mean? Is like they can detach. It's, they've got their World War II propaganda running through their head. The American GIs stormed the beaches of Normandy to, save the Jews from the Holocaust. And, they kind of have that image of, the American soldiers going in and saving the world from dictatorships and, the good guys against the bad guys, but it's all fun and games as long as there's no consequences threatening our financial, privilege. Right. And, for a long time, like with the American wars throughout our lifetime, for the most part, like the Iraq war, you got the Toby Keith, red, white, and blue running through your ears as you're sitting there watching the television, watching the war footage. It feels great. It felt, like most Americans, it felt fun. And, now gas prices have like nearly doubled in a very short period of time, and it's looking like the AI bubble is popping. People are being laid off, and then they're being told that their ChatGPT prices are going to go up. They're like, fuck, like this is not
Slab
how.
inflation.
What's that?
There's going to be slab inflation.
Yeah.
Inflation and slot. It's going to be more expensive.
Yeah, they're like, fuck, this isn't sports ball. Like, this is like real. Like, this isn't how our social contract is supposed to look like. Like, you're supposed to diddle the kids, sacrifice our children to Moloch, go invade in all these countries and kill all these people, and we're supposed to be able to go and buy cheap shit, like, and eat our slop food and, watch Netflix and, like, not give a shit about, like, that's the social contract.
And part of this is, we talk about fell for it again. That's a little misleading, because what's really going on is, we'll just think back to February, early March, when, it was February, when they went into Venezuela and they used the discombobulator and they killed everybody and they stole Maduro. They killed Cubans even. They even got some Cubans involved to sweeten the deal. And we were here. It was like China was like impressed and they were scared. Now we control Venezuela's oil. Like, but the consequences to an invasion, this operation in Venezuela, the only consequences were that America got a bunch of oil and we got a bunch of really badass patriotic memes that made Plebs sloppers feel good about their country. They feel strong. Modern the Europeans, everybody wants to do that, right? Like modern and everybody else. And Canada, for sure. And then we went in, now we're going into Iran, and the neocons, we talked about this, were in charge, and they still are in charge. But they are losing a little bit. They're losing control of, the meme narrative, the meme value, like the center of the value of the memes or whatever. Because now these Iran slop and OSINT slop, Iran's kind of out memeing the CIA right now. And everybody it was not surprised at the U.S. military dominance, air superiority, Navy superiority, and all that. But I don't think anybody was expecting or prepared for the Iranians to out-meme the CIA in the information war. And I'm not saying they're necessarily doing it, but it's a much closer fight than anybody anticipated.
Yeah, the Iranians got some good memers for sure. I just find it weird that a CIA-controlled platform is like Twitter is feeding me all the banger Iranian memes, and that kind of has me questioning, what the reason there is. But yeah, there's another thing that is also very different about this war, which is, do you remember early on in the Trump administration when all those journalists were resigning from their roles as correspondents with the Pentagon?
Yes, I remember that clearly. It was fun.
Yeah, I think when that was going on, that should have been pretty obvious to people. When J.D. Vance spoke to the troops on the 4th of July and told them that he wouldn't send them off to war unless he absolutely had to, that should have been very clear that a war was going to, really get accelerated or go kind of, broader, full scale. And this whole shit with the journalists, it's just like, it's kind of like a weird dynamic where you have to ask permission for the government. It's like there's all these funny things, like where people believe in the Constitution It's like the real American social contract is what I said earlier. It's like you guys go do all your weird shit and sacrifice the children to Moloch or Baal or whoever, and we sit and we eat McDonald's and watch Netflix. Like that is the true American social contract. And then they will, there's a small amount of people that will point to the Constitution and say, well, you're infringing on my rights to watch Netflix and eat McDonald's. From time to time. But the Constitution is just a meme at the end of the day. And it doesn't really, protect anything. But, there's like all these, aspects of like no illegal searches or seizures, but the NSA can, track everything that you're doing. You've got, the First Amendment, the freedom of press, but you have to ask the Pentagon, and if you can report on war stuff. You have the Second Amendment, unless you have a gun that's like really cool, and then it's illegal. Yeah, I mean it's kind of silly at this point. I mean, it's just like, it's like these people in America. The most retarded pleb in America is the one that says the reason we're not like the UK right now, we're not as gay as the UK right now, or Canada or whatever, is because we have the Constitution. They don't fucking get the point whatsoever. The reason why we are not as gay as Canada or as the UK is because we have the best tobacco in the world, and because there's a small amount of people that are smoking cigarettes in this country. And it's so much more about the cultural attitudes of things than the permission slips that you get from.
Think about how pathetic things have gotten. You have to ask the government permission to make predictions, to predict the future. You have to ask the government. You have to get CFTC involved to regulate whether or not you're allowed to predict something. And this is, this is thought. This is thought. They're regulating thought. They're regulating your ability to hedge your bets or to make informed, balanced, rational, economic decisions about your future, about the future. And that is, if they can do that, they control anything. And, forward guidance from the Fed is in, the Fed minutes. And will they, what are they going to say? Are they going to do more interest rates? This is why I understand like Jeff Snyder's frustration, is that it's not the problem from my perspective is it's not that, the Fed really doesn't do anything, at the end of the day, but people still make, ask their permission. Essentially, they delegate their planning for the future to the Federal Reserve, and they do it to the CFTC to making predictions. In prediction markets, and people do it to the different agencies that ban cigarette smoking. If everybody just smoked cigarettes at a bar, remember during COVID, like I would go into some bars, like especially places like Nashville, and people just wouldn't be wearing masks. And even though that was the law, and people just didn't do it, and there's nothing you could do. If everybody just did that with cigarettes or daylight savings time, what are the police going to do? They're just going to arrest you for having your clock, your watch, your Rolex, whatever, is an hour behind. Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah, and I think you should make it really clear, pointing out where their priorities are. If they do arrest you, it's like, yeah, there's this guy over there diddling kids, and you're worried about where I'm smoking cigarettes? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Or like robbing the grocery store or whatever. I mean, it's It's strange to watch. I mean, it's just I feel like we have a huge opportunity ahead of us to create some change in this world.
You know, the clock is ticking. You've gone less than 2 months now to, outsource all of this, outsource your thinking, blame it all on BB, blame it all on the Jews, because Memorial Day this year, it's not, you can't just go along with the rules made by the pedophiles in the government. You got to start doing, because at the end of the day, it's already true. If you obey the law, if you're a law-abiding citizen, it's not a broadly state true, but it could be any instance that you may find yourself in any circumstance in anywhere in the country where following the law is not only not going to protect you in the criminal justice system, if you even survive the situation you're in, it may actually be more beneficial for you to break the law. And you don't necessarily know when you're in that situation. You kind of only find out in hindsight. But the point is, following the rules is no longer a dependable way to get about life in the least amount of trouble, the least amount of complication, the most safe, the most predictably friction-free way to go about life is no longer following the rules. In fact, sometimes following the rules will make your life worse. So, it's up to you to be responsible for your decisions and be able to stand behind them, and to know when to be the right decision to make without having to stop and think about all the other contexts and then second guess yourself.
Absolutely.
There's no more regulatory clarity coming. And if there is any regulatory clarity coming, there's no value to it. There's no marginal value to any more regulatory clarity. You have to think for yourself. Because like you said earlier, this isn't just reality TV. This isn't a game anymore. This isn't sports ball. It's becoming real. If you leave your house, you could encounter this shit.
You remember all the plebs that were screeching at the top of their lungs, like begging Gary Gensler, like Predator was one of them, for example. He was calling Gary Gensler's office, trying to get him to, go after all the shit coins and regulate them as unregistered securities. And, what ended up happening is, Donald Trump got into office. And the regulatory clarity that he brought forward is firing Gary Gensler and saying that there's no regulatory clarity whatsoever. And, there was, I think the best thing that came out of that situation was that the Hakatua girl didn't go to jail, which made me happy. Because I didn't want to see her go to jail. There's nothing, there's very few things that are as awful as watching, a cute blonde girl go to jail. You know what I mean? Like that's like one
the
of the
only
biggest
thing worse is watching her get stabbed to death on the bus in North Carolina, and that pissed a lot of people off.
Oh yeah, that'll piss. Yeah, I was surprised that I thought that was going to be the start of white boy summer. Like that was going to be like the white people's George Floyd moment, but that fizzled out pretty quick.
I was ready. Still defender. Man.
I was ready to go paint a mural of her. I was ready. But I think that story kind of fizzled out because she turned out to be a Ukrainian refugee, She was like a homegrown blonde, like Southern Belle American, it would have been game over, but either way. But I don't know. I'm getting tired. It's kind of late. Folks, when we're recording this, we typically record a little bit earlier in the day, but Easter pushed back both of our schedules because we had a lot of festivities to do. But But we live in some pretty interesting times. Like the shit is getting real, and it's very clear that the pioneers are going to be the ones that inherit this new world that we're going into. And that's something to look forward to and be excited about. You got any other closing like topics you want to get through before we go to the Found Base, Rod?
Make sure that you checked out Pastor Jeff's Easter sermon. It's a Fountain bonus episode. There's 15-minute preview on the, in the RSS feed on Fountain, and I think the preview is also available on like Spotify and Amazon. But make sure you check that out. I always go to Easter services. Grew up that way. I've seen a lot. I've seen other ones, from different points of view on the timeline, different messages. Pastor Jeff's had the best Easter sermon in 2026 on Easter Sunday. I know Silas Thornbrook agrees, and he woke right up, listened to it, and he had a great energy. It was a great Easter for Silas too. And for me. So make sure you check that out. Especially if you didn't catch a sermon this morning or Sunday morning.
Also go check out our episode with Rev Hoddle if you haven't heard that yet. That was a good one as well. First boost I got is from Akashi Hayoga, 7,777 SAS, says, without algo, it is more difficult to discover all the right maxis, so Maxi Madness provided me unique value apart from winning generational wealth on predicts. I think it's insane that anybody could win money on predicts betting on Maxi Madness, personally, because I had no idea where it was going to go. I didn't even bother. I'm experienced enough at this point. I didn't even bother filling out a bracket because I knew it was just going to get busted immediately.
But congratulations to Rob Hamilton, who won the bracket pick'em challenge for the X bracket. I don't know who to credit for winning the Noster bracket. But again, there were people who made some good predictions and they won.
Yeah, I need to reach out to the Noster winner. My bad on that. I will do that. But it was a good source of entropy, I think, for a lot of people. That was like a thing I heard multiple times, is they didn't know the participants,
I don't know if we said it already on the show, but the Maxi Madness markets on predicts, in total liquidity in that week were about 1.2 Bitcoin, almost a Bitcoin paid out to winners who predicted Maxi Madness. That blew my mind to learn that. I was not expecting it. I knew that. I never doubted for a second that it was possible, but I never expected it to happen in the first year of Maxi Madness. I was impressed with how people ran with, listen, you asked the question at the top of the hour, can you still teach a pleb a good idea? And I think we did. We taught some plebs the value of prediction markets. I think it was worth it.
I guess so. Thank you for the boost, Akashi.
Next one's from a late stage bottle. I hate I'm not going to be able to make it to Vegas to hang out with y'all. Give everyone a big hug from me. Not that anyone really knows me, but some do. Tell Maury I still appreciate his candor in Nashville, although still a bit saddened about his cold shoulder at in the park to me and my wife. Odell gave Late Stage Hodl and his wife the cold shoulder at Bitcoin Park. I did not know about this story. And that changes my opinion of Odell, I have to admit.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
I didn't know who Late Stage Hodl was when I knew of Late Stage Hodl, but I couldn't connect him to the man when I first saw him at Wake Satoshi.
I didn't connect it either.
What I did know is the second I saw Late Stage Hodl and his wife, they were people I would not be giving the cold shoulder to. So I don't know about Odell. Maybe he was very busy. 1031. They don't make their companies don't make a lot of money. So he's got to do a lot of work. He's got to get after those founders. He's got to, he's busy. It's the bear market.
The first time I met Late Stage Hodl, I didn't put together who he was either, but I was excited to meet him because he was wearing his Ungovernable Misfits Big Baller t-shirt. And if you see somebody wearing one of those t-shirts, you know that they're legit because there's not very many people that have them. They have them on sale on their store for like 21,000 USDT, I think. But I've got one. Late Stage Hodl has one. Shatterack, 3,993 sats, says No Grumman and Rev Hodl are both the most deserving winners on Nostr. That was super fun and a great way to promote and foster genuine engagement. It's always funny until someone gets hurt. Then it's just hilarious. Hashtag 40HPW. Have you seen anything going on Nostr since Maxi Madness? Sorry, anything happening?
No, I don't think so. I've checked in too. I popped in there, farted around a little bit over Easter weekend. It seemed like, sometimes the holiday weekends, your hometown or the highway, when you're heading to church, it's empty. A lot of people they're out of town. They're doing stuff with family. People were off Nostr for the holidays. That's what it seemed like to me. Brad Hodl was we interviewed, like you already mentioned, a few days ago. 1,121 sats. Interesting how the data on chain folks are the biggest maxis. Or the HPW. What's your interpretation?
There's just some people that are excited about the idea of using Bitcoin. And at this point, there's so few of them. The Bitcoin is money people seem to be the individuals using it the least or encouraging the use of it the least. I mean, they're out there making it less fun to engage or talk about it. We
talked about this. We talk about the idea of the Bitcoin is money people. They like to threaten the user activated soft fork. They like to talk about the node count. But it is ultimately at the end of the day about the Bitcoin cannot survive without users. It does not survive without users. Bitcoin cannot survive on virtue alone. And it doesn't matter how many nodes you run. Doesn't matter how much you virtue signal. If you don't use Bitcoin, it dies. And so, the data on-chain people, a lot of them are the biggest maxis. And they've got the best, best attitude. They've got they got more influence. They've got more potential. But they're the users. The users are in control of Bitcoin. So it's, you're right. It is a interesting observation, Rev Hodl. I'm glad you noticed it as well.
Well, I think the answer is pretty clear of, who would you rather invite to a party, your average dog army pleb or your average knots running pleb?
Yeah, it's the old saying, running a node doesn't make you a Bitcoiner, any more than sleeping in the garage makes you a car. Any more than going to church makes you a Christian. You know, it's you got to do more than virtue. It's about your actions. It's about your, you know.
If sleeping in the garage made you a car, what type of car would you be?
I would be a, Acura NSX.
Does that mean you like anime?
I don't like anime, no.
So could you be an Acura if you don't like anime? Like you have to like anime if you're going to be a Japanese car. Or you're just really into samurai swords or something.
Neither of those things, but one of the best books I ever read was The Bushido of Bitcoin by Svetsky. And I just felt like I connect with the samurai. And if I could have a superpower, it would be to Naruto run like Shinobi. And so I think of the speed and just the character of the Acura NSX. And it reminds me of the Bushido and the speed of Shinobi when Naruto runs. And but that is what I would, if I could be a car, that's what I would be.
What was your favorite Fast and Furious movie?
Well, I don't think we ever answer now. It's Tokyo Drift, of course. Remember that, we do the scene in Tokyo Drift when that song, My Life Be Like, Ooh, never felt that. Yeah. Never felt a high like that in years.
The song that I always have in my head from that movie is the bang, 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 bang. You know that one?
Oh, yeah, of course. And I mean, that's like, it's like you got Avicii Levels, and then you got that song. The two of the most iconic songs of the millennial era. And then you throw in drifting, Tokyo Drift, you throw in the drift, like that is a cultural foundation for a millennial when it comes to cinema.
I wonder if you know how they live in Tokyo. If you see me, then you mean it. Then you know you have to go Fast and Furious.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Satoshi being a Japanese man makes me respect him more.
It's true. Are you a Bitcoiner if you're not a Japanese car?
Good question. Like a Toyota, a lot of people like Toyota Tacomas and Helixes.
Those people live in the Middle East.
Next one is Sean, 1,000 sats. Thank you for protecting our democracy. Well, Sean,
you're welcome. You're welcome for protecting our democracy.
We don't do it for the glaze, but thank you anyway.
Dude Satoshi 521 sats says, thank you for your time. Well, you're welcome.
Our boy Silas Thornbrook, 121 sats. Noah Drummond, deepfake troll on Odell. Dying laughing emoji. Yeah, dude. It's so fun to troll Marty in that because I think they obviously like the Bugle, but they overthink it. Man, the worst thing you can do with like Maxi Madness with Bugle News, any of this is to overthink it. That's why it's so funny,
Pretty much everybody in the Bitcoin content ecosystem are checkers players. And they're looking at a world with chess rules. And they don't understand that they're still playing checkers, trying to understand what's going on. I think this is one of those situations. Zuyo Z40HPW 100 sat says, No Grumman was my choice from the beginning. Seeing her went to the final was amazing. Says Bugle interviewed her and Lahav Stardust was on my radar. Thinking she's a deepfake made me laugh. Famous OG live under a fancy rock. Thanks credential journalism for informing real up-to-date events. Well, you're welcome. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think there's a lot of people that think that Bitcoin culture is very, interesting. I think there's been a big shift towards focusing on the suit coiners and what they're up to, because the plebs are just uninteresting. Yeah. Noah is probably the most interesting thing in Bitcoin culture at the moment, at least in my opinion. She did great in Maxi Madness. It was well deserved.
Iron Sats BTC on board. Thumbs up, salute, thumbs up. Thank you, BTC on board.
Noster Gang, 100 Sat says, I think she's Lynn's alter ego. Probably talking about Noah. Well, that's it. That's our boost. I want to thank you to the subscribers of the show. Lahav, Shadrack, Dave, BTC on board, Boomer, Sasha, Fundamentals, Sean, PlayStation Idol, Turkey, Open Mic, Avi Burra. Thank you guys for subscribing.
We were wandering disconnected.
Rod, you got any thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Scrolling through the silence.
Happy Easter. The plebs killed Jesus.
Building up our kingdoms, but they faded into dust. Every road we walked on only led away from us. Then you stepped into the chaos, spoke a better way, rewrote every story we were too afraid to face. Wearing our mercy, standing at the cross. You saw every failure, still you paid the cost. We don't understand it, but we feel the weight. Plebs before your glory, overwhelmed by grace. Overwhelmed by grace. We were chasing validation, trading truth for what felt right. Echoes of the culture kept us blinded to the light. You carried every burden we were never meant to hold. Hung between the heavens as redemption was foretold. Every voice was shouting, walk the easy road. But you chose the suffering just to bring us home. Wearing our mercy, standing at the cross. You took every shadow, turned it into loss. Now we stand forgiven, though we turned away. Plebs before your glory, overwhelmed by grace. Overwhelmed by grace. We didn't see it coming, didn't recognize the